Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the finale, Southern XC round 4 at Basingstoke, and it was a full gas start. I didn't get the best of starts. You can see the boys absolutely putting the power down. We've got John from Guernsey, who was leading the series, who I pipped in the last round, managed to just get the better of him. And then we've got Tom from Magspeed, who is absolutely going for it. And I remember thinking now, holy cow, this is a fast start. It was just full gas to get to this first corner. And the champion was Tom this week. That's all that matters, who gets that whole shot. But I can't be too disappointed with that start coming into the first corner in third place. And it was really important because it came down into this single track where there wasn't really room to overtake. And as we go around these next couple of corners, in a minute, there is a super awkward corner. So the further back you were, if someone made a mistake, and I think I was actually the person that made the mistake on lap 1, you just can't afford to do that. But it was super fast, and I was worrying. I was thinking, if these boys do not ease up, your man's going to be Shell City. But this was the super awkward corner. Look, I got this horribly wrong on lap 1. Look, you can see me faffing about trying to get over the roots. That would have been a ripple effect on everyone behind me, but I managed to just absolutely whack it, sprint back onto the boys. But you can see the single track here. There is really nowhere to overtake, and when we're going full gas, it's hard to overtake anyway. But I'm going to play out the first lap, show you where all the action was, and then when it all kicks off, when the attacks start coming. But Tom was setting an absolutely blistering pace down here. Really good single track rider. If you watch here, the gaps he starts putting into me and John just here through these awkward little corners, he was just nipping through them really nicely. And I've said this time and time again, getting through the single track fast is so important because look, he's got a bit of a gap on us now. We've now got to absolutely rip the head off it. You see John's out the saddle, bish bash bosh, trying to close that gap down. Whereas he's probably not, well, he probably is pushing as hard. You can see he's absolutely going for it in front. But those little gaps that open up, you got to burn a match to shut them down every time. And that little drag up, that little kick up on the grass was spicy. And this next bit was my idea of absolute hell on the course. This is like soft, loamy, horrible. And it is really hard to get through. You know, when you're like putting down all the power you've got and you're just thinking, why is this so hard? Why am I not moving very fast? That bit of the course was literally my idea of absolute hell, and some of the drags, but the boys were putting the hurt on. You can see heart rates at 175. I think in this race I maxed out at about 187, and that's probably one of the highest heart rates I've had this year. I think mine's just like naturally quite low. Like, I don't have a very high max heart rate. But one thing I am learning, and I'm not going to tell you, I'm learning how I like to race now. I'm not going to tell you because I've got national champs coming up in a few months' time. And I'm not going to give away my secrets, what I hate during a race, the like tactics that I hate and stuff. Because then people will know what to do against me. As much as I like to share everything, I'm not a complete numpty all the time. But through this next little bit of single track, you can see Tom's getting a little bit of a gap again. And he was going full send. Fair play to the lad. Magspeed's newest racer, putting the hurt on in the expert category. And if you're wondering, this week was like the final round for the series. So they did set us off elite, junior and expert differently. But you can see this drag here. Your man's not getting his big nose in the wind. Straight on John's wheel. Absolute wheel sucker up here. Because there was a little bit of headwind. And although Tom was on the front, there was a gap. So either you had to go around, close it to get the benefit of the draft, or you had to do what John's doing here and just bury yourself trying to keep up. But yeah, this was season finale. So John in front of me is actually leading the series. I was sort of in second, but I hadn't done enough rounds yet. Basically, if I finished first and John finished third, I would have won the series. If I finished first and he finished second, he would have won the series, blah, blah, blah. You get the gist of it. I basically needed to win this race. Look at the heart rate rising. This next little bit was spicy meatballs. Absolutely I was out the saddle now because you can see the camera bobbing from left to right. Absolutely giving it beans and suffering like a dog. I was just like, come on, get over this little ridge. But in this race, after Ben gave me the old big talk before the race, I was super motivated to give it beans and just make it hurt. But you can see there was a bit of a back marker from the junior, so it was a bit unfortunate for Tom here. He does move out the way, absolute legend, but it did mean that we managed to get back on and we were all back together. See, we slipped past him there, but yeah, we were all back together. So really that massive match that Tom burnt from the beginning, going absolutely full whack, was sort of lost a little bit there, but that's just part and part of racing. It happens to all of us. Well, I don't know, it hadn't happened to me because I'm not normally at the front that early, because I obviously clearly don't have the power off the line. But this course was super hilly as well. Like, no like draggy climbs, which does suit me. Like the long climbs I'm not like a huge fan of because you've got to suffer for too long. But these little ones here where you can just get out the saddle and absolutely mash it to the top, they're not long, but they add up, and the camera doesn't do it justice, but they are quite steep. But yet again, what you're going to see coming through the single track is just like Tom putting in a few bike lengths. And I was thinking at these points, I don't want them bike lengths to open up. So I want to get as soon as I can, I want to try and move up, get on his wheel. Because for me, I knew what the target was in this race. It was to win, put the pressure on John to have to get second place so I could take the overall series. I made it out before the race that I didn't know what I needed to do to win and where he needed to come, etc, etc. But you know your man had already worked it out because we all love winning. So you can see it's only like a couple of bike lengths, but if you let too much go in XC, it can be really hard to make it up. It's not like in road when you're racing crits and stuff where there's like a gap like this and you're like, oh, one little sprint, I'll close that down. It doesn't happen like that in XC racing. You let that wheel go and it is really hard to make up the time and bridge back over. So in a second, you'll see I move up and do bridge back over. But oh, foot out, he's under pressure. Johnny boy's under pressure. And I saw that, and when you're making mistakes, you know the rider in front is on the limit. They are working hard. We're all working hard now, but you can see my heart rate's dropped back down to below 160 just there. So I saw that gap open up to Tom straight away. I was like, ping, get past and bridge over. But I didn't want to make it easy for John to like get a bit of slipstream along here, because when you're doing like 18 mile an hour, there will be an element of draft. So there, I snapped really quick, bridged over to Tom to get on his wheel, and then I was like he's better descender than me. Look, you can see there, bike length here, bike length there. Just, he was getting around the corners a little bit quicker, but I wanted to make sure I was as close to him as possible. So if he does decide to do an absolute monumental attack at any point, I am ready to cover it. But obviously that little section back there was a huge improvement for me. I mentioned a second ago, my heart rate dropped down to 159. In the past, when my single track skills weren't quite as good, that would just not have happened. So that is a massive game changer for me, being able to go down the descents and actually recover. There's still loads of work to do. I still need to get faster on the descents to really compete with the big boys at national level, but it's an absolute game changer, that. And you can see again here, little kicker up, boom, absolutely giving it beans. Love to see it. But I'm in second place, and there was a group of us now. So there was, I think it was just 4. There might have been 5. There might have been an army rider as well with us. I'm not 100% sure. But there was Tom on the front, me, John in 3rd, and I think Alex was in 4th. And then there may have been a army rider as well in a group of 5. So we'd started to pull a bit of a gap because the pace was just high. It was full ponies to this point. And I'm thinking now, look at my heart rate, it's gone back up, and I was thinking, I hope it eases in a second because this really hurts. And I'm going to go into it in the next video about suffering, but my God, I was suffering right now. And you can see the most important thing is just staying in there. It's something I've learned. Going with it on the first lap, if you can do it, you've got to just keep telling yourself at some point, either this pace will ease enough for you to recover and you either might be able to attack or you might be able to recover to stay in that group. If you let that group go, it's absolutely game over, because one, they're moving fast, and two, the benefit of the draft round here, there's a couple of long drags, there was a bit of wind, stuff like that, but we're coming into the final climb of the lap now. It's a little bit of an awkward entry. You had to like sling right there. But so this next bit is the final climb of the lap, and then we'll obviously would have seen the full lap. But this one was an absolute stinker of a climb. It was one of the, it's not long. If you live in like one of the European countries or America, this is not a long climb, and it probably doesn't even look like a climb, but this is all dragging up now. So it's dragging up through this little single track. It then kicks in a second, quite steep. The camera, I'm going to use that excuse all the time. The camera never does it justice, but just here around this corner, it kicks up quite steep. You can see there, so Tom's got out of the saddle to absolutely rip it, and I'm just thinking, go with it, go with it, go with it. Up round here, it then goes into like a draggy grass climb. If you raced here, you will know that this grassy climb was absolutely horrid. And if you noticed just a second ago, Tom looked over his shoulder, so he wanted to see the damage he had done. And at that point, I knew, or I sort of had the feeling, yeah, he's hurting now. When you look over your shoulder and you want to check who's there, I know you're trying to see if you've pulled away and stuff like that, but I sort of thought to myself, he's hurting now. So this is maybe the time to keep the pressure on. I've never thought this in a race, that I should go to the front and keep the pressure on. But I was just feeling good at the time, and I thought to myself, yeah, make it hurt, make everyone else suffer. So you can see here, it looked like he was labouring a bit now up the climb, and the pace had dropped a bit. We're only doing like 7 miles an hour. So this is when I thought to myself, that's it, ramp it up. Look, I've ramped it back up. I mean, it's not a massive difference. We're dragging it up a grassy hill, but it was enough to just sting my legs. And the plan was, I just wanted to test the waters. I was thinking to myself, you know what, I'm feeling quite good today. Let's go with it. Put a little dig in. This was not an all-out attack. I mean, it hurt. I don't have many more berries to give, but I flipped a little switch and I thought, go to the front, keep putting the pain on. If it's hurting you, you know 110% it's hurting everyone else behind you. So I was like, keep it going, get the hammer down and see what you can do. And basically, I came up to the top. This is basically the top of the climb now, and it drags back down to the finish line, through a little bit of single track, through pits, and that was it. But I was on the front here and I was working hard. So you can see like my hands have come in, I've tucked into the aero position. We've gone through lap 1, and this was the big point in the race. I was on the front, you can see my heart rate's dropped back down now, and I felt like I was just doing tempo, and I was waiting for someone to attack, someone to go round, and no one came round me. We were in this group, so I thought, sod it, this is it. This is when Georgie boy's gonna pull the pin and attack. This is the first time in a race ever I've thought, just attack. You can see I took this corner so much better, came over the roots, absolutely smashed it. And I was like, I've never felt like this in a race before. Look, you can see me coming through. I'm attacking on a bit of downhill, a bit of single track. What's going on? But even up this climb, I was just like, just go for it, make it hurt. And I was starting to put a gap in. And never in a race have I felt like this, where I thought I could actually attack now and pull away. It felt amazing, because normally I'm worried that I'm going to blow up, stuff like that. But I just thought to myself, this is it. No one's come round you, so they're all hurting. This is your chance to just go for it. Give it absolutely 110% and see if you can get a gap. And the other thing was, I could see the junior riders just up ahead. So every little bit I was like, yes, I can catch them. And if I can get into that group of junior riders, they're going to drag me around a bit. So you can see here, up the little kicker again. This is where I went absolutely full send. This is where the heart rate maxed out for the race on lap 2. It was an all-in attack right now. I was putting in a gap to the riders behind me, and I just thought, don't look back, make it hurt. So the max heart rate for the race was 187 just there, and I was like, keep on it. So you can see just here in front of me, Ewan Dix, he was 3rd place in the junior category. I remember bridging up to him, and I just said to him, I was like, can you do me a favour and do a monumental pull up this drag? And what an absolute hero. He done a monumental animal pull up here, kept me out of the wind. I thank you, sir, for this pull. And during this pull, we managed to bridge up to Ben. So went past Ben. See you later, Magga. He was talking the big game before. Big Brother's done him in. Here we go. And honestly, we got to the next drag and Ewan went again. Top boy. This was probably the point in the race where it made the attack and bridging over to them boys so worth it. But you can see Ben did not like it, fighting back. And you are about to witness the water bottle pass from Dell of all water bottles. Look, both of us at the same time. Ben goes, George goes. Dale boy, take your beanie hat off, you legend. So you saw we had to leave a little gap there so we could double pit. But I remember going back to the front and then Mr. Adrian Lansley come past and I was like, I'm getting on that train. Vet national champion, absolute machine. And I remember going over this like horrible section that I talked about earlier in the race and I was like, this really hurts. But this little bit here dragged me away from Ewan and Ben. So I've dropped the little maggot now. And I remember coming up here and I was thinking to myself, Georgie boy, you need to rein it in right now. Adie's an absolute animal. So you can see the wheels started to go. It wasn't much. You saw him just at the end there. But I didn't want to ruin my race. We were like 54, 55 minutes in. And that little surge from Adie pushed me on a little bit, and then Sam, who was in 2nd place in the vets, like caught me a lap later and he was like, come on George, get on my wheel. I jumped on his wheel for a split second and I was like, this ain't for me. Like we went up this next climb, look, he absolutely went for it. I was like, nope, ease off now George, that is it. You've got the gap, be sensible, go at a pace that you know you can maintain that gap. And that was it really. I managed to hold the gap, pull away. I think I got about a 90-second lead by the end of the race and came over the line in 1st place, but unfortunately 2nd place in the series. But 1st place overall, back-to-back Southern XC wins, absolutely over the moon. What a wicked series, and hopefully I can keep this form going now till National Champs. Hope you enjoyed the video and I'll catch you in the next one.